There's a reason potatoes once fed empires, armies, and entire civilizations. They were, well, the underground gold of the old world. Tough, reliable, shockingly productive. And yet, buried in the rush toward modern farming, one of the most powerful potato-growing techniques ever used quietly vanished. Not because it failed, but because it worked so well it didn't fit the new industrial mindset. Today, on Ancient Roots Uncovered, we're digging up that forgotten system, a method designed not for machines, but for human hands, a way of growing potatoes that turns scraps into soil, weeds into allies, and tiny seed pieces into massive harvests. And once you understand it, you'll never look at a potato bed the same way again. Long before fertilizer bags and chemical boosters, growers understood something simple but, well, profound. Potatoes don't crave hard-packed earth. They crave darkness, moisture, air, and slow food. Instead of forcing them into deep, exhausted soil, old growers built the soil up around the plant as it grew. Not once, not twice, repeatedly, layer by layer. This method showed up in different forms across history. Gardeners dug shallow trenches, others laid potatoes right on the surface. But they all shared one core principle. You don't plant potatoes into soil. You build soil around potatoes. The process was, beautifully low-tech. A seed potato went down. A thin layer of soil went over it. As soon as the green shoots appeared, they were buried again under straw, compost, leaves, or loose earth. Every time the plant reached for the sun, it was gently pulled back into darkness. To a potato, darkness means one thing: make more tubers. Every buried stem becomes a factory. Each covered section sends out new underground growth, and every underground growth has the potential to swell into another potato. Instead of one short zone of production, the entire buried stem becomes a vertical field of food. This is where the massive yields come from. Modern potato growing, well, it usually locks production into a narrow strip of soil. You plant, you hill once or twice, and then you just hope for the best. But, the lost layered method keeps extending the underground world the plant lives in. More darkness, more moisture control, more feeding zones. And here's the part industrial farming forgot, Potatoes are surface feeders. Most of their productive roots, well, they live in the top layers of soil, not deep below. When you build upward instead of digging downward, you stay right where the potato is strongest. The layered bed acts like a living pantry, really. Straw traps moisture, leaves feed microbes, compost releases nutrients slowly. The plant is never shocked with a flood of chemicals. It is fed the way plants evolved to be fed, gradually, constantly, gently. This is why historical records often describe potato harvests that sound exaggerated. Dozens of tubers from a single plant. baskets from a patch the size of a table. These weren't miracles, they were systems. One of the hidden powers of this method is that it turns waste into wealth. Everything that normally leaves a garden becomes building material. Old hay, kitchen scraps, pulled weeds, autumn leaves, even shredded bark and torn cardboard. Each layer performs a job. Coarse material at the bottom creates airflow. Softer matter above it holds moisture. Rich compost near the stems feeds growth. As these layers collapse, they don't suffocate the plant. They become soil. Earthworms move in, fungi spread, bacteria multiply. The bed slowly digests itself into black, crumbly fertility. And the potatoes grow inside that process. Instead of weeding, you bury weeds. Instead of hauling compost, you stack it. Instead of fighting nature, you recruit it. This is why old growers loved this system. It reduced labour, it reduced digging, it reduced watering. It even reduced pests, because, thick organic layers confuse insects and shelter the predators that eat them. The bed becomes a self-running machine. The lost potato method, it follows a rhythm rather than a schedule. It's really about moving with the natural flow of things, you see. Plant, cover, wait. That's the cycle, plain and simple. When green appears, cover again, and again. It's just that easy, really. Each cycle extends the underground stem. And, each extension expands the harvest zone. The key is light burial, not smothering. Leaves still peek through, they still breathe, they still photosynthesize. But the base of the plant is always sinking into a deeper, richer world. Moisture, becomes so much easier to manage. Those thick layers, they really help reduce evaporation. Even during those dry seasons, the inside of the bed stays cool and damp, almost like a little oasis. And when the heavy rains come, the loose structure actually drains, so the roots don't end up drowning. By the time flowering begins, the plant is, standing on a pillar of handmade soil. And beneath it there lies a vertical treasure chest of forming tubers, just waiting to be discovered. And when harvest comes, there is no wrestling with hard ground, no forked potatoes, no compacted clods. You simply pull back the layers. Potatoes spill out like coins from a torn purse. This is effortless abundance, built slowly, released generously. The lost potato method doesn't exactly scale easily to tractors. And, it doesn't really ship well in instruction manuals either. It's a method that calls for observation instead of calendars. And, it needs materials rather than machinery. As agriculture industrialized, fields became flattened. Uniform rows, you see, took the place of living beds. Fertility moved from compost to chemicals. Speed replaced patience. The layered system didn't disappear because it failed. It disappeared because it made farmers independent. It used what was already on the land. It rewarded those who understood soil rather than those who bought inputs. And yet, quietly, it never truly died. Fragments of it survive in straw gardening, no-dig beds, and deep mulching. But the full system, the vertical soil-building engine that old growers relied on, is rarely taught as the powerhouse it really is. That's why we're uncovering it. This ancient approach isn't just about yield, it's about relationship. With waste, with time, with biology. You know, it shows that productivity doesn't come from force, it comes from structure. And, well, from layering functions, from feeding invisible life. It turns gardening from a battle into a collaboration. So, the gardener builds the stage, you know, quietly preparing the ground for what's to come. Then, well, nature performs the play, filling the space with its own kind of magic. And potatoes, humble and underestimated, become the proof. Proof that ancient growers weren't just guessing, no, they were engineering ecosystems. You don't need special tools, you know. You don't need expensive soil either. All you really need is seed potatoes and, well, a bit of organic matter. And honestly, just the willingness to build upward instead of downward. Each layer is a sentence in a story the plant knows how to read. Darkness means grow. Softness means expand. And richness, well, that means multiply. When harvest time comes, the story ends in weight, in baskets, in hands full of clean, fat, well-fed food. This is the lost potato method, not a trick, a system, designed by centuries of quiet experimentation. Refined by people who measured success not in yields per acre, but in full cellars and fed families. And now it's yours again.